Hello class, so basically with the 4 quadrant drawing, you're going to be drawing 4 simple objects in 4 quadrants. And you're going to be doing this with continuous tone, so that's where you're using overlapping marks that almost completely disappear, and you're going to be doing this using graphite. And the goal of this project is we're learning how value can be used to create the illusion of three-dimensional form. So also in this project, one important thing to remember is that you're not going to be seeing explicit lines. So you're going to be creating edges through the use of differences in value. Hello class, so I'm going to talk about the 4 objects you're going to have to use. So you're going to want to find a cylinder-like object. One thing that works well is a toilet paper roll. Looks like this. I think everybody knows what that looks like. And then you're going to want to find a sphere. So you could use ping pong balls, baseballs. You could even use an egg, similar enough to a spear. Next, you're going to want to find a cone. And I made this cone from paper. Basically, you cut a, basically like this half circle, and then you just fold it, and then you tape it. Okay, and that'll give you a cone. Okay, and then for the rectilinear box or cube, something that works well is a Kleenex box. So you get a Kleenex box. Okay, and then you're gonna wrap that with paper. And really, you're only gonna need to wrap 3 of the sides because you're only ever gonna see 3 sides of a rectilinear box or cube. So what you're going to do is you're going to tape it. And then if the drafting tape doesn't work, you could also use Scotch tape or painter's tape. But I would suggest taping it where you can't see the tape. So tape it on the back edges that aren't going to be seen. Yeah, basically make it so that 3 of those sides are being covered completely. You don't see any tape, so you have to situate it so that works. Okay, and then, tape any little loose corners, and make sure the edges are nice and defined, and you'll have yourself a box. Okay, and let's get a better angle so you can fully see it. I'll push you, pull it back a little bit. You'll have your box, okay? So like I said, you only need to cover 3 of the sides, and you could make this using Kleenex and paper. Okay, so the first step in the 4-quadrant drawing is you're going to make 4 quadrants. Okay, so you have a 18 by 24 inch paper. You're going to want to make marks on the bottom. Okay, and since it's 18 inches wide, you're going to make a mark at 9 inches. And then you make one at the top. And that one's going to be 9 inches as well. And draw that line. Okay, and then you're going to draw a mark at 12 inches because it's 24 inches tall. And another mark at 12 inches. Okay, and draw a line across. So that leaves you with 4 9 by 12 inch quadrants. The 4 quadrants, you're going to want to place your 4 simple objects in these quadrants. So one's going to have your cone, one's going to have your cube or rectilinear object, one's going to have your cylinder, and the other one's going to have your sphere. Okay, and the first step in drawing this object is to establish the proportions. And remember to use any construction lines that you need. As well as any of the siding techniques, including the basic unit, as well as the horizontal and vertical line test I was showing you. So in drawing this cone, I would establish a very light axis. Okay, and then I would draw an ellipse at the bottom. Okay, and then what you could do is you can measure the width of it, and you could use the width as a basic unit. Okay, so there's one width to measure the height. Okay, and that's about 1 1/3. Let's see, let me try that again. That's about 1 1/2. Okay, so. Okay, so 1 1/2. Okay, so I'll actually wrote right there. Okay, and you want to establish these lines very lightly. Okay, and then once you have your construction lines and you're done using them, then you're going to want to lightly erase them so they don't show up when you start to draw your form. And let me see, so this probably should be a little more this way. Okay, this probably should be a little more this way. Okay, and let me find my eraser. Okay, and you're gonna want to keep your contour lines. These are the contours. You want to keep these very light because you're gonna be establishing edges in this drawing through value, differences in value, as opposed to an explicit line. Okay, there won't be any explicit lines in this drawing. You'll be creating edges through differences in value. Okay, so remember we're using continuous tone in this work. Continuous tone is the type of value creating method where you're going back and forth and you're overlapping the marks so that they basically disappear. Okay, so something like this. Okay, and when you establish your values, you're gonna first start by simplifying it. Okay, and you're just going to block in the shadows and the lights. And you're gonna keep it kind of light at this point. Okay, when you're drawing with continuous tone, you're going to be building up the values, okay? So they might not be as dark as you need them right away, but you're slowly going to build them up. But I would say start by blocking in the shadows. Okay, so if I was drawing this, let's see. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what your object should look like after the first step, which is where you block in the lights and the shadows. And one thing I want to bring your attention to is the fact that I established the value of the background. And that's important because it's going to give you a better idea of what your object's actually going to look like. It's likely that the object that you're looking at isn't against a completely white background, and it's going to look different if you draw your object on a background that is white. Okay, so establish the background value that you see, and that'll help you to get a better idea of the object's actual value. Once you have your lights and shadows blocked in, okay, in a very simple way, then you're going to start to build up your values, working across the drawing, and you're going to start to capture the nuances within these shadows and within these lights. Okay, and when I mean the nuances, I mean you're going to capture the reflected light, you're going to capture the shadow core. If we're talking about the shadows, and if you're talking about the lights, you're going to be capturing the halftones and the highlights. And one thing to pay attention to is edges. You're going to notice that some edges are softer. Okay, so for example, the edge on this cast shadow is softer than the edge where the bottom of the cone meets the cast shadow right here. So it's a sharp edge, and the other one's a softer edge. It's important to pay attention to this edge quality and depict it as you see it. Okay, and you're going to continue to slowly build it up until you get the values as you see them. So this is what my cone looked like after I developed some more, and you can see there's more nuances in the values. Okay, within the shadows, I got some reflected light right here, shadow core. Within the lights, I got the half tones, a little highlight right here, and overall just a more nuanced and sophisticated development of value.